The first article I explored is Can Racial Profiling Be Avoided Under Arizona Immigration Law? Lessons Learned from Subtle Bias Research and Anti-Discrimination Law. Arizona Senate Bill 1070, instituted into law in April 2007, has touched off discussion over the country. The most questionable arrangement of rule requires law implementation officials to check the citizenship of people they stop legitimately for reasons unknown, free of migration status. In much as they have sensible doubt that the individual might be unlawfully present in the United States. In particular, the law states, for any legal stop, confinement, or capture made by a law-authorized official or law requirement organization of the state or a law implementation official or a law authorization officer of area, city, town, or other political subdivision of the state in the requirement of some other law or law of a district, city, or town, or this state where sensible doubt exists that the individual is an outsider and is unlawfully present in the United States, a sensible endeavor will be made, when practical, to decide the movement of status of the individual, aside from if the assurance may frustrate or discourage an examination. Any individual who is captured will have the individual's migration status decided before the individual is discharged. Notwithstanding what one may think about the aim of the Arizona rule, and paying little mind to whether the law eventually has its starting points in racial ill will or a longing to just implement existing law, what will be the rule's impact on the individuals who are legitimate occupants of the United States? A few eyewitnesses have communicated worry over what will compromise a sensible doubt under the law and dread that Latino Americans specifically will be focused based on their ethnicity or race, paying little heed to whether they are legitimate inhabitants or not. Besides, in spite of the fact that the law will probably have its most prominent effect on Latinos, different gatherings, for example, Arab or Middle Eastern looking people, may likewise be influenced in this manner. The issues raised by the law are more extensive than its effect on a specific gathering. The issues include general common freedoms for the country all in all. Foreseeing such concerns, the resolution likewise probably precludes racial profiling by expressing that law authorization authorities may not consider race, shading, or national root in the requirement of the law, aside from under conditions permitted under the United States and Arizona constitutions. Safeguards of the law contend that feelings of trepidation of racial profilings are baseless. Although most news sources have alluded to Senate Bill 1070, the last form marked into law in Arizona House Bill 2162, an adjusted rendition of the Senate bill. They utilize the expression Latino all through this paper. We receive this term speaks to various ethnic groups, and that Latino is mainly as opposed to ladylike thing. In any case, we use Latino essentially for quickness. We likewise perceive that some utilization of the term expression Latino to allude to ethnicity as opposed to race. For this reason, in this paper, they utilize terms alluding to race and ethnicity conversely. The law expresses the law implementation authorities may not think about race, shading, or national starting point in executing the necessities of this subsection, but to the degree allowed by the United States or Arizona Constitution. This language is dangerous as per Chin, Hessick, Mazzaro, and Miller, in light of the fact that the U.S. Court and the Arizona Supreme Court have recently decided that race may here and there be viewed as a factor in making an assurance of sensible doubt. In the discussion, they see clear parallels between the Arizona resolution and the existing anti-discrimination laws. They discover these parallels to some degree unexpected, given that the goal of migration law is to avoid, while social equality laws by and large advance consideration. In any case, they accept that a portion of similar difficulties that have developed with the requirement of anti-discrimination laws are likewise liable to emerge the authorization of the Arizona rule, notwithstanding the different reasons for these laws. Subsequently, it creates the impression that a portion of the troublesome exercises gained from the implementation of anti-discrimination laws are unmistakably pertinent to the discussion over the Arizona law. The second article I annotate is The Legacy of Mestizaje, White Privilege in the Contemporary Latin America. A related objective of Mezaheche was the absorption of the indigenous and African individuals into the socially homogeneous society. The intermediate relatives of the Spanish conquistadors, or white elites, accepted that with time Meheche would prompt the vanishing of indigenous and African societies from the Latin American culture. Osmosis was additionally practiced by the mixing and blending of races, bolstered by the administration or what is now known as brightening approaches in Latin America. These approaches included two mischievous dimensions. One, European movement was empowered especially to territories with high grouping of indigenous and African individuals, and two, white hordes were sent to zones where high convergence of Afro relatives lives. The white elites accepted that through interracial rearing that were going to mejorar la raza, or improve the race, and weaken the African and indigenous qualities from Latin America. Strangely, the expression mejorar la raza is yet utilized among U.S. Latinos as of today. The heritage of prejudice against non-white populaces can be promptly seen in this present Latin American culture by severing them imperishable to the debasing of conventions established in indigenous and African convictions and confining these gatherings as fascinating others. For example, a national study led in 2010 by the Mexican National Council for Prevention of Discrimination 2012 recognized segregation as the fundamental issue announced by the Indigenous Network in Mexico. A conscious and deliberate rejection of the history, including past and current commitments of Afro-Latinos and indigenous individuals. Prejudice and separation are standardized as normal wonders that happen because of how a general public creates. At the end of the day, prejudice and separation are normal events. Bigotry has constrained open doors for indigenous and Afro-relative communities for quite a long time. These two gatherings have invariably been the least fortunate portions of Latin American social orders. Tragically, such substances remain constant today. In any case, various social developments have revealed insight into well-being differences. The accompanying area quickly examines the Sabasta development in Mexico, the Mayan development in Guatemala, and the Afro-relatives development in Colombia as dynamic representations of protection from social stratification based on ethnicity, race, and skin shading. Albeit and increasingly through historical investigation in the past, the extent of this original copy, these developments were chosen since they give solid instances of contradictory and sorted out social developments by indigenous and Afro-Latino as against colorism. The third article I examined is Understanding Bias Toward Latinos, Discrimination Dimensions of Differences and Experience of Exclusion. White-black relations have generally been the characterizing type of intergroup relations in the investigation of preference and separation. The present article recommends that there are restrictions to applying this model to understanding predisposition toward different gatherings and suggests that a complete perspective on the elements of the Anglos' inclination toward Latinos requires thought of the particular components of this type of intergroup relations. In 4 exact investigations, we attentively record the oppression of Latinos. Study 1 investigates the potential measurements that underlie inclination against Latinos. Study 2 analyzes the impact of a specific social personality prompt on the impressions of acknowledgement and belongingness of Latinos individuals from different gatherings. Next are studies 3 and 4. These examinations think about general procedures of preferences and recognize how specific features of predisposition against Latinos can shape their encounters, and taken together show how understanding inclination against Latinos can equally advise contemporary speculations regarding bias. Maybe in view of this focal job in the U.S. social experience, black-white relations have additionally been the conventional focal point of mental research on preference and separation, while inquiries about segregation with Latinos have been shockingly uncommon. Ramirez, 1988, found that just 7% of the social mental work on preference was directed with Latino targets. More than 20 years after the fact, an audit of the articles on partially and segregation and 3 driving social brain science journeys, which include Journal of Experimental Social Psychology, Journal of Personality and Social Psychology, and Personality and Social Psychology Bulletin, uncovered that most, by far, of all articles around there concentrated on blacks as targets, which is 61%, Like Ramirez said, just 7% of articles concentrated on Latinos. In spite of the fact that there is a generous incentive in stressing the basic components of predisposition crosswise over gatherings and advancing general models of intergroup relations, a far-reaching perspective on the elements of the frames of mind and directions of Anglos toward Latinos requires thought of the particular components of this type of intergroup relations. The present work accordingly looks at the ways that the demeanors of Anglos toward Latinos and Latino settlers are comparable in nature and elements to different types of preference, yet in addition centers around extra factors that might be especially pertinent for understanding predisposition against Latinos. Guiding more focus toward inclination toward Latinos and opportune for all intents and purposes, just as hypothetically, while black-white relations keep on being of basic significance in the United States, the Latino populace in the United States had developed in size and impact. Latinos have outperformed blacks as the biggest minority bunch in the United States. Latinos as of now establish 15.4% of the U.S. populace, while non-Latino blacks is 12.2%. Simultaneously, driving pointers of monetary and social differences uncover that Latinos, similar to blacks, linger behind whites in profit and infrastructure achievement for those more than 25 years of age. In the present article and 4 examinations, we analyze contemporary victimization of Latinos and the experience of Latinos in the United States. Concentrate 1, explore the activity of inclination against Latinos with respect to Anglos in a field study. Concentrate 2, investigate the potential measurements that can underlie inclination against Latinos. Concentrates 3 and 4 analyze the impact of a specific social personality sign on view of acknowledgement and belongingness of Latinos and individuals from different gatherings. Taken together, these examinations think about how understanding the general procedures of preference and predisposition upgrades acknowledgement of oppression Latinos, just how valuing a portion of the specific aspects of inclination against Latinos can shape their encounters and portionally educate in contemporary hypotheses regarding disposition. Thank you. These are the 3 articles that I examined.